Welcome to another Quickshotz vlog. I've just returned from Snowdonia, where I was there for a week, and I've recorded a few videos from there, which will be coming to you in the coming weeks, but I haven't had time to edit any of those, so I thought I'd do a quick shots today and just process right from scratch one of the images that I took in Snowdonia, just so you could see what I do to my images in terms of processing. I've also been to Mexico as well, but I didn't video any of that. Well, I took some video. But there are no vlogs coming from Mexico. It was purely a beach holiday. Stepped off the plane, drove straight to Snowdonia, and that's where I've been for the last week. So that's why it's all been a bit hectic. Anyway, so processing in Lightroom. Now here we go. I've just gone through, all I've done so far is I've downloaded all of my images into Lightroom, and I've just selected one that I think could be quite interesting, and gives a good representation of the type of processing that I put into my images. Now this is it. This is taken from the North Ridge of Trevan, a 3,000 foot mountain in Snowdonia. Myself and my friend Simon scrambled up the North Ridge, and you'll be able to see the vlog of that in the coming weeks. But this is one of the images, and it's taken from roughly about halfway up the ridge. Now what you've got here is you've got Egan, this mountain in the cloud. You've got the glitter eye, then you've got you've got Cumidwell and Clinidwell down here, and this little lake here, which I'm not going to try and pronounce, but it has a rather affectionate name of Australia Lake, because it looks a bit like the shape of Australia. When you can see the whole thing, it's been clipped off by the ridge here, but that's fine for the composition, because it kind of makes it equal in size to what we've got of Clin Idwell there as well. So there's no, it's fairly balanced, and when this image is finished, what you should generally be seeing is your eye should kind of be coming from this bottom right hand corner through the image in a kind of a snake motion, then up through and out that way. So that's kind of the effect that I will be looking to achieve with the final image. Now I must have actually accidentally touched that tone curve. I'm just going to reset that. There we go. Right. So yeah, I've not processed this image before, and this is entirely from scratch, so it could go completely wrong. I'll just get rid of that down there. Right. Now, first thing I would do, and if you'd seen my one of my previous Quickshotz vlogs, you will have seen that I did one on the tone curve. I'm just going to come down to the tone curve. I'm just going to brighten up those highlights a little bit, and then pull down those shadows and recenter the line. Probably just pulled that down a little bit much. Now I'm going to work on the bottom part of the image and forget about the top for the time being. So I've darkened that down. I'm just going to actually oops, click the wrong clicker, take the exposure and just pull the exposure up to about there, and that's probably about right for what I want to do. I'm not going to touch the color temperature. You see it was shot at 5,300 Kelvin, and I'm just going to add in a little bit of clarity, a touch of dehaze, which will just kind of bring out a little bit of detail in the clouds once I come back to it, and then just add a touch of touch of vibrance. I'm not going to touch the saturation or any of that stuff for the time being. I import to enable profile corrections. I'm just going to do remove the chromatic aberration, and there we go. That's effectively the first part of the processing complete. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of detail into the sharpening detail, and a little bit of masking there. Right, now I'm going to take the a grad tool, and about 2/3 into the area that I want to grad, I'm going to just begin to pull it down. I want a little bit of a feather edge, but not too much, and then pull that, pull the exposure back on that, and then pull down the highlights very slightly. I don't want to overcook the sky, but it was a pretty angry sky that day. The sun was up here, up and sort of behind the cloud here, and it was obviously flooding down into Cymydwell. Is that a dust spot? Yeah. Now, there's two ways you can kind of see dust spots. There's one when you click the clicker and you get a little visualize spots, a box in the develop module. But I actually prefer to do something a little bit crazy, which is ramp up the dehaze. Wow, there we go. Okay, by doing that, it really brings out any dust spots. And really makes them stand out. So this one here, you can see there's a dust spot just there, unfortunately right near an edge. I think there's a dust spot there. Yeah, that looks like a pretty defined edge to it. And the visualize spots tool doesn't really pick these up particularly well in a lot of images. Now if there was there's one just, these are little dust spots as well. They're not imperfections in the cloud, they're actually dust spots. So although when I've pulled the dehaze back, it might be you might not be able to see them at all. I just like to deal with them so that I know that my entire file is completely dust free, at least in the sky area. It's not so apparent down further into the land. So I'm just going to take the heal tool. I don't like the clone tool particularly well. Sometimes I use it, but 90% of the time I just use heal, and I'm just going to run that over there like that and try not to pick up the edges. I really hate how Lightroom does this. It just goes to a random part of the image and picks something, and I'm not a fan of how it does it, but let's see, let's try and just, I much prefer to do this by hand. It's kind of not too bad. I might just run a clone over there again, a heal over there again, just to smooth out those edges. It's a particularly nasty spot, that. There we go. There we go, that's not looking too bad. And then I'll come over and deal with this one. This one probably isn't as difficult to deal with because I'm not too worried about obliterating some of that sun-kissed landscape. There we go. And that's not looking too bad. And then where was the other one? It was up here, wasn't it? Going to get rid of that. And actually I'll just clone out little bits of the cloud, which I don't particularly like anyway. Just to get some consistency. Some weird banding going on here, but you won't see that once the deres has been pulled back. So if I dehaze back to 7, which is where I was, there we go. It's that's not looking too bad, I suppose. And over there, you would never know that there was a dust spot there. So that's all looking good. Right, now this bit here, I don't particularly like how bright it is, so I'm just going to run a brush around there. It doesn't have to be too accurate. I haven't got auto mask on or anything like that, and I just want to just pull that back a little bit because it was looking a little tad bit bright. There we go. I've got some clipping in the shadows, so if I turn on clipping there, you'll see all these blue bits. They're all crushed blacks, so I'm just going to lift those up a little bit. There we go. And that's effectively kind of got rid of them from a visual point of view. Then I'm just going to crop. Now, sometimes I crop first. One of the first things I do. Sometimes I'll leave it until later into the process. And today I'm leaving it until later. Now I'm going to leave. I want to put it there, so I'm going for a 5:4 crop. I composed this to be a 5:4 crop, and that's roughly what I was looking at when I took the image. I kind of want this cloud just coming in the corner here. I want to be able to accentuate this slight ridge on this rock coming in from the bottom right hand corner. There we go, and then I'm going to finally just take my brush, run it over these foreground rocks in the area that I kind of want your eye to be led through, and it has to be really subtle. If you try and do this too much, it becomes absolutely obvious that you've run a brush over these points, and if you don't do it enough, it won't have the effect that you want. So there we go. Now those are the bits that I'm just going to affect, and I want to take, if I take the exposure down, just reset that that highlights, and I just want to lift it very, very slightly, and that's very slight adjustment in the exposure really kind of draws your eye to it subconsciously when you come to view. And I'm just going to add a little bit of clarity as well, which adds a bit more punch to the midtones. I am going to add a little bit of global contrast to it, and there we go. So this rock now is brighter, but not a huge amount. And then finally what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift the whites up in the image. Okay. It needs a little bit of a vignette. I do like to add a tiny bit of vignette to my images. And then finally I'm going to split tone. So I want the highlights. I want a little bit of warmth in the highlights. So I'm going to come to here, and then I'm going to take the picker and I want to cool off. I either want to cool off the shadows, and this is where you affect the mood, or I'm going to warm up the whole image. And actually I prefer that. And there we go. And I think that is complete. That'll do me. So there you go. That is very roughly how I edit an image. It should have taken something like 10 minutes, maybe not even that much. But you know, with talking it through, that obviously slows you down. But yeah, I might just refine a few of those things and take a little bit more time over it, but that is roughly my processing workflow